for Cold Hard Sports Talk with your hosts, Ty Gore, Matt Barrett, and Jake Woods.
Alrighty, boys. This is a big interview for Cold Hard Sports Talk. It is our first ever guest with NHL games played. So, NHL games played. Start with that. AHL, also Austria, Germany, the Czech Republic, Italy, Finland, and in the Asia League as well. From Oshawa, Ontario, this is Scott Barney. Scott, how's it going, man? This is a pleasure.
Yeah, good to be on, guys. Always good to chat hockey or whatever, life. And as they said, they're all those teams. My father-in-law used to joke, have a stick, we'll travel, right? But you know what? It was a great experience playing all over the world, and things I share now with guys, you know, I hear coaching kind of thing.
Your passport just must be stamped with like a ton of different stamps, eh?
Yeah, we had to almost get a new passport because you get the max in the back there, right? So had to get the 10-year one there. We were kind of laughing, me and my wife, but now we don't get really going too far. So it's good. It's good both ways. So.
Well, you were able to start your hockey career pretty close to home in Peterborough, or started with the North York Rangers, but then Peterborough. Talk to us about kind of your junior sort of, I guess, path, you know, for those couple of years playing in Ontario.
Yeah, I played at 15 it was called the Metro League back then, and it was a lot stronger than the OJ, and the OJ hadn't really gotten big then. There was only about, I think, 7 or 8 teams. But Wexford was a powerhouse, just sending guys like crazy on scholarships and stuff like that. And, you know, I played in North York, I believe I was 15, and then drafted to the Petes in my underage year. And back then you could take two underage players in the first 3 rounds. So I was fortunate to, you know, I lived in Oshawa, so Peter was only 45 minutes away, and my parents could get to every game, and it wasn't too far away from home. So it was kind of crazy how that worked out. And then that year, the Memorial Cup was hosted in Peterborough, and Guelph didn't win a game actually in Peterborough in the World Cup, but we ended up losing to Granby in the finals. But you know, great experience as a young first-year player, and then went on to play 3 more years there in Peterborough, and then was fortunate to get drafted by LA, and then, you know what, we can go wherever you want to go next with her.
Well, we'll kind of talk about that Peterborough, that Memorial Cup run. Just how cool is it to be a part of a Memorial Cup? I don't think we've had a guest who's played in the Memorial Cup before yet.
Yeah, you know what, it was great, right? And in that year back then, so basically the top 2 teams in each division could vote for the Memorial Cup. So I think we were second in our division at the time. And you know what, Peterborough had a lot of rich history back then. You know what, most guys drafted the NHL. And you know what, we were fortunate to get it, right? And the city was behind it. But Jeff Toohey, the GM of that team, like, you know, he's one of those guys, you know what, your kid comes in, and you know what, Jeff doesn't make many trades. And you know what, he's big. You don't go to school, you don't play. You know what, your kid's taken care of in good billet homes. You're in a great community there in Peterborough. And you know, we made one trade that whole year, even though we were hosting. And we brought in a third-line winger. But you know, he was so instrumental that we had such a tight-knit group. And our biggest motivation, we were probably supposed to lose second round of playoffs. I think we finished 3rd that year in a division. And our biggest motivation is we didn't want to skate for like 2 months and just get bag skated, right? So we ended up winning the first round against Kingston. Second round, I believe we played Plymouth. They had like Brian Berard. Who else? Maybe Sean Haggerty played some games in the NHL. Troy Smith, who helped me coach here in Humboldt my first year, he was there in Plymouth. Pete DeBoer was the head coach there. Then we went to Sarnia, and they were just loaded with superstars like John Sim, Trevor Letowski, Eric Bolton. Back then, Aaron Brand was a big name, 100 and some points. They were deep, but then we beat them like again 4 games to 2 maybe, and then we went on against Guelph in the finals and won in 7 games, and then the Memorial Cup back then too. So we went in Peterborough. Actually, another funny story. Game 7 against Guelph, I was playing, and Nick Bootland, we collided, and back then like the visor, and you kind of pull it out a little bit. Well, the visor hit my nose, and literally broke my nose. Game 7, right? So you go in and get the whatever, come back out, and I remember 2 days later, couldn't open the eyes, but there was no way I was putting that fishbowl on. I couldn't breathe in it, and the eyes were like completely shut. But you know what? Then we had, you know, the World Cup in Peterborough, hometown crowd, and back then you basically every team played in one day. So all 4 teams would play. back then it was Granby was really deep. Like I played third line center as an underage, and I had maybe, I don't know, 50, 60 points. Their third line center had 135 points, right? So I think there was an ownership back then. There was these brothers, and they owned like 3 or 4 of the team, so they kind of loaded up the one team. Like they had like, so the coach Michel Therrien was coach in Granby then, and they had they were deep though. Like I said, like they had like George Laraque play for them, a bunch of big names, bunch of Jason Doig. They were really deep back then, and we beat them in the round robin game. I believe we beat Brandon, and then Granby been sitting for 2 days, and we were kind of pretty exhausted. So back then they kind of crammed it in a lot tighter than they do now. But Granby just pounded us in the finals, though, right? It was just good. They had a talented team, and it was a fog bowl. I don't know if you remember. You had to keep skating around every period, twice a period, and it was pretty crazy. And one other crazy story there, our goalie was Zach Burke, and his brother is Sebastian Bach. So Zach just got hired on the Ottawa Senators as goalie coach there, but his brother sang one of the national anthems, right? And he was just like swinging the microphone around, like it was like just crazy, right? Like obviously he was famous with the Skid Row and all that. And during the game, he's like behind the glass, behind the bench, like just incredible story. And I remember him coming in, and he's talking to the guys, and he goes, "Guys, like, have you ever, don't just go to the hotel rooms on your own and just smash the TVs?" They're like, "No, like we're making $20 a week here. Like there's no chance," right? Like where he's making probably hundreds of thousands and millions. But no, he was great. And Zach, obviously a successful goalie, but there's a few stories from that run anyways.
That's hilarious. Just smashing TVs,
yeah.
Oh man. And so you were drafted 2nd round, 29th overall. So nowadays that'd be a 1st round pick by the LA Kings. Talk to us, what was the draft like? Kind of draft day? It probably wasn't the, hubbub as it is now, right?
Yeah, it's still pretty big, but back then they did the whole draft in one day. And so it was in Pittsburgh, right? That year it was in Pittsburgh, and it probably wasn't my best year junior, right? We came off the World Cup, and probably wasn't the best summer, probably as far as the training wise, right? And I went to under 18s in the summer. We had like Joe Thornton, Marlowe, all those guys. We won the gold medal there, right? So I was basically just like the guy in the middle of the bench that just shifted each way, right? But it was great to win those championships, though, and memories that you'll never forget, right? Especially putting that Canadian jersey on. You'll just do whatever. You're happy to sit there in the middle, or fill the water bottles up, or do whatever you can to kind of to get the team over the edge. And we played. That was in Nelson, British Columbia, I believe, that tournament. Well, yeah, being drafted by LA was pretty remarkable. I said, I think I was the 4th pick by LA at that point, 29th overall, and the 3rd forward. So obviously I had the long road ahead. I think they took Jokinen at 3rd overall. Yeah. Jokinen. And then they had Matt Zoltek at 17.
15, yeah.
And then I went at 29, I believe, right? It was kind of, it's time to get to work, right? So I think the next couple of years were probably my best years in junior with the 40-goal seasons, right? And got suspended for 10 games in 1 year, and then kind of, I wasn't the most physical guy, but it happens, kind of like a Marty McSorley play kind of thing. But
whoops.
But so no, you know what? Peterborough is great. Like I said, my wife's from there. We have a place in the lake just outside. Basically consider it our hometown. If we go back in the summer, that's where we go, and have so many friends there, and finished my high school there. We'd always stay at the end of the year and finish off the high school. Wouldn't be leaving town, and I had a lot of good friends. And it's a big sports city. Hockey, lacrosse, it's huge there in Peterborough. And I owe it to them to get my family now because of it. And you know what? And played all over the world from playing since meeting and playing in Peterborough.
So one thing I wanted to ask here is at the top of that class. Obviously, you mentioned it before: Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, Roberto Luongo going 4th. Eric Brewer 5th. What knowledge did you have of like these like there we just named like 3 all-time great hockey players from Canada? What was your knowledge of these guys coming up in the same draft class as them, playing against some of them coming up?
Well, I'd played the year before under 17 for Team Ontario. So back then you split it into provinces, right? And back then it was the World Championship actually. So it was like they do like Team Ontario, Team Quebec. I think Team East, like Maritimes, was one team, like all the Maritimes. And then I believe West was split into two, probably Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and then Alberta and BC. So but Ontario had their own. We ended up winning the world. Like we beat Finland in the finals there, right? So we had like Thornton, Adam Mayer, Jason Ward, Nick Boynton, Brian Campbell. Like it's a deep, deep draft. Like that 79 is pretty deep, right? Pretty deep year. So, yeah, so that was a pretty good experience. And obviously playing under 18 with Thornton, Marlowe, and you know what, the whole crew there that played on that team again, like Andrew Ferentz, you know what, the list goes on and on of great NHL players. So, you know, as they're calling some names out, you know what, I'm just going, okay, yeah, right. Then you know what, TSN, you know what, you can tell you're getting drafted. The camera's on you. They already know who's getting drafted, right? So it's like when those guys are sitting there, oh, I think they're going to draft whoever, right? Like they already know that guy's getting drafted, I think, right? So, but
it was kind of anticlimactic. Like you kind of knew it was coming.
Well, you could see the camera guys there, and like someone standing there, so you're going like, maybe it's me, maybe it's a guy behind me, like this, because there's a bunch of players, right? So you're going like, it's like almost like pulling the lotto balls, and they got 4 left, and these guys are sitting there, right, kind of thing. So, but no, you know, LA was great too. They treated me great, so it was it was good.
And Scott, so your time in Peterborough comes to an end. You go to Springfield, things go well there, and you had somewhat of a back injury that sort of started kind of to come up. What kind of went through all of that over, I guess, what would end up being 3 years?
Yeah, obviously it started there in Springfield. I actually started in Peterborough there, and a playoff run there, and it kind of, you know, it's just getting sore and sore. And then went to Springfield, and just like every day it was just getting worse and worse, where I could barely touch my knees. And, you know, so I went to LA, flew me in there, seen some bunch of specialists, and you know what, they were first class. Like I seen, you know, I said had about 6 cortisone shots, 2 different surgeries, physiotherapists all over the place, doctors all over the world. And then, you know what, finally there, after about 2.5 years, I seen this guy in Montreal, Dave Campbell. So I was driving from Peterborough to Montreal. It's about a 5-hour trip. And usually, you know what, you don't get too far. It's pretty sore. And so on my way home on that first that first appointment, I stopped kind of halfway and got out of the car and bent over. I'm like, can still touch the toes. I'm going, this is like, hey, this is amazing. Something's working, or just maybe this is getting longer, a little longer. So get home to Peterborough. You know what? Everything's feeling pretty good. Like, this is like awesome. Like I can like maybe move again without like all this pain. And so I started going to him like for about a month. So I go up there, say Monday morning or Monday time I get there, Monday afternoon, have my appointment, stay the night. You know what? Go there again the next day, second appointment, then drive home. Same thing. Got home, feels great. You know what? This is going in the right direction. Did that for a month. Then I seen this guy in Montreal, Dave Wright, who used to be an official in the OHL, worked with the Argonauts and I believe the Red Blacks in the CFL. Just worked on me like crazy. It was a little closer drive, an hour 20, right? So we do that, plus do some training, trying to get back into it. And obviously not heavy weights, more like the, you know what, body weight exercises, core, getting everything strengthened around the area. And, you know, I did that for about 6 months and started skating finally. And then just like I said, like was skating with the Pete's, things are going well. And then went to this work at a hockey camp in the States in Lake Placid called Can-Am. And it was like Dave Taylor was a GM at the time in LA, and he's a Clarkson alumni. And there was another Clarkson alumni at that hockey school running it. And he said, "Oh, that's Scott Barney there. He's skating." And Dave Taylor was like, "What's going on?" And so I'd already agreed to go to Pittsburgh on a tryout, right? Obviously, LA didn't qualify me. Obviously, they had me written off, and I think anybody would have had me written off by then, right? So my agent called me up. I was like, you know what? Like, let's call Pittsburgh back and tell them no. You know what? I owe it to LA. You know what? Dave Taylor was first class. So, you know, Pete Demers, a trainer, the organization, like they had me up in a condo for almost 2.5 years. You know what? Paid me my AHL salary. You know, at least I can do is I owe it to them, right? And so went back there, had a good training camp. I remember the first drill in that training camp, Andy Murray runs a practice where like 10 minutes feel like an hour, right? So I get out there, I get to camp. I'd been using a wood Sherwood stick before this, right? I get to camp. They're using the one pieces now for 3 years, right? I'm going like, what's it? Like, I'm sticking with the wood here for now, right? Like I tried to use one, right? The puck was bouncing off it, and I was just like, I'll stick with the Sherwood for now for the camp. But that first like 5 minutes of practice literally felt like a whole hour. Like my legs I was ready to just like go sit in the bench, right? Even though I thought I worked like basically 1.5 years to get back to this point, just training, but just it just shows that such different muscles by not being on the ice and everything like that. But anyways, long story short, I get a contract there, like obviously a two-way NHL AHL deal, and then just keep getting better and better, and obviously finally got a game up there halfway through that year in Manchester, and obviously had a great coach there in Manchester, and Bruce Boudreau. So I had him for about 4 seasons there, and learned a lot from Bruce, the way he handles his players and the way he runs practices and his day-to-day operation. And then got called up, and I still remember Ian LaPerriere standing up in the room and kind of going, you know what, guys, this guy has missed three years of hockey and came back to do this and that, and all the guys got up. And so, it made me feel pretty good, and something I never forget. And he's a first-class individual and always was when I was there, even through injuries and whatnot, right? And obviously, you know what, I was 13, 14 years later, was still playing, and obviously didn't get as many games up as I would have loved, but you know what, I wouldn't trade anything for it. And you know what, then it kind of went on from there.
Did you kind of ever get the LA experience, being able to be there for a long period of time? You played 19 games in 03-04. Like, did you ever get the LA experience, right? Like that's like the mecca, right, of like movies and TV.
Yeah. You know what? Like, yeah, I've been to the Hollywood and all that. Yeah, I was there, and I was a rookie, right? And I had that 19-game run there, right? That 1 year I was playing like second line with like Frolov and Stumple, right? And I was kind of playing my off wing, and we had a good connection going there, right? So with things were going really well. So we had the rookie party, right? Obviously, I think Sean Avery kind of organized that, and through Matthias Nordstrom and stuff, they had the captain. So it was a good experience, right? You got to obviously, it costs some money, right? Dustin Brown was the top rookie then. That would be his kind of first year. So he's a high pick, and Brown is such a hard worker. Even at that age, was really successful, right? And obviously, he was the captain of the Stanley Cup teams, and he's still playing, actually having a great year this year, right? But just you know what, like, yeah, like I remember at one, you can get invited to all those different spots, right? But back then, I was so focused on the hockey that it was just like, I just was, every day was just a bonus for me, just being up, right? And I was just hoping another day, right? And obviously had a good run there, and I had to separate my shoulder one night in Buffalo. I had 50 family members there, because obviously it's only about a 3-hour drive away, and I had a goal and assist through like 2 periods, and was going to dump it in at the red line. I was like, no, you know what? I'll cut across the blue line here. And I didn't really see Adam Mayer coming across, and kind of the shoulder went from one side out the back, went back to the bench. So I was like, let's try one more shift. And it was like, and I remember my family saying when they said, can we get a doctor down to the King's dressing room? I think they all knew that was probably my shoulder, right? But I ended up coming back 3 or 4 weeks later and got back. But the next year I missed the next year was the lockout, and I ended up having like a hip kind of groin issue going on, right? So I missed that whole year and had like a labral tear in my hip just after coming back after like that. That was basically my third year probably up that year when I had that run with the 19 points, right? I was just kind of getting back in my own and kind of feeling it. And Andy Murray had a lot of trust in the way I played the game. I played second power play. Just kind of, I was just getting everything back after missing those years. And, but I had the labral tear in my hip, basically couldn't walk for like 3 months, took almost 12 months to rehab it. Came back, I ended up signing with Atlanta that year, and probably had my best year in the AHL that year. Probably, I don't know, it was like 32 goals in 50 some games, maybe in Chicago, maybe that year.
Yeah, 32 goals in
Atlanta, and Bob Hartley was coaching there. I remember Bob said to me, "Hey, Barnyard," he goes like, "I got a carrot to dangle for you." He says, "You move the feet, get a little PP." So I ended up playing a second power play there in front of the net, right? But but you know what? Bob knew how to push guys the right way, right? Get the most out of everybody. He's still a successful coach over there, and I think in Russia now, right? So he's won Coach of the Year in the NHL, and there's a reason those guys are still coaching. They're able to adapt to different players nowadays. So, but that's that one.
So you mentioned LA. You kind of get invited to all those parties. What is the most famous person that you got invited to?
Well, I think the best one was at the rookie party where we pull in, we had dinner, and then we went to the next, I don't know where we were going, right? I was just kind of along for the ride, right? So it's just like where we were going, everybody's getting out, and we go into the one spot establishment, and look across the table. Like Hugh Hefner has got like the 3 girlfriends with them, right? Like the 3 girlfriend just gives a wave over, right? He gives a wave over, right? So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, this is for real, right? But we had practice the next morning. Coach knew it was rookie party, right? So we had practice the next morning. But I think that's when like maybe Avery might have started dating Rachel Hunter, maybe at the time. Maybe, I don't know. I think that would have been around that time. But after that, like you know what, I just was concentrating on hockey and just maybe concentrating too much, but just, you know, I just wanted to get, as I said, another day. And you know what, that's obviously good stories to tell. And, you know, all part of playing a long career. And you know what, I tell our guys, you got to have fun and enjoy it while you can. Right. So
Sean Avery, you've mentioned him a few times. What was he like as a teammate? Because we all know Sean Avery, you know, we all grew up watching Sean Avery, but what's he like as a teammate?
You know what? He was great to me. Like, we played junior against each other, and he knew a lot of guys from Peterborough. So he'd always come down in the summers. He played a lot of those guys in Cincy or in the Ducks system. That's where he kind of started Ducks Red Wings kind of system there. And you know, he always treated me great, Sean. And you know what? He was great at what he did, right? Because he was not only tough, but he had a lot of skill too as well, right? But he'd sit the whole game down at the end. Just he had other team guys like just in stitches and ready to kill him, right? But he would answer the bell to anyone, right? So you know what, he's had a great career and obviously done things that people don't like to hear, but you know what, he speaks his mind and speaks the truth, and you know what, like I said, some people don't want to hear it, but you know what, at least he's speaking his mind and saying how he feels and how it probably should go, maybe over the line here and there, right? But that's just that's the way he played as a player though too, right? Like that's the way he plays as a player. I said, you know what, always was great to me and took care of me. And maybe it's just from our early years, kind of, you know what, in Peterborough, when his first year pro, we come back there and meet some guys that we knew and hang out. And you know, I said, always treated me well. And obviously he's doing well now with the acting kind of side of it.
And after your time in LA, you kind of go around the AHL for a little bit of time in Chicago. You talked about Grand Rapids, Hershey. Just throughout those next couple of years, what was kind of your career looking like? You had some success in a few of those places. So what were kind of those years like?
Yeah, it was good. I said, like, you know what, that year in Chicago was great. Like the Chicago Wolves organization is probably one of the best ones in the AHL. Like Johnny Anderson was head coach there. Marty Howe was an assistant coach, and they treated the players just unreal. We'd be flying to places and teams were bussing, right? Just the way they took care of the players, your families, the kids. Like it was just, anytime you went anywhere, family was included. And you know what, it shows by the results of all the years they've won, you know, championships. With back to the IHL, the AHL days, and it's still how they you know what, get players to the next level, right? And then I went in the Grand Rapids, probably a little bit of a down year for me, kind of half the year there, and that happens, right, in pro. And I was just kind of getting, maybe I lost it and whatever, right? And then I got traded back to Hershey, and Bruce Boudreau, who was coaching me before, they were like first, second place that year, right? So got traded back to a really good club there, and I think I had more goals in the playoffs that year. I think 10 goals led the AHL in scoring that year, most goals. Yeah. And then I had the whole season, right? So it kind of got things back going. Unfortunately, we lost in the Calder Cup finals to Hamilton, and Carey Price just came down from junior, and just, you know, he stood in his head, and the guys in front of him were great too, blocking shots. But we had like Mike Green, we had like David Steckel, Matt Hendricks. I mean, a guy, Alex Drew, was a high-end AHL player. Chris Bork, who's Ray Bork's kid, was high-end AHL player. Schultz, that played a long career on the back end, was a first-round pick. You know, we had a Louis Robitaille, who now coaches Gatineau, has worked with Team Canada a lot. We had such a deep. Derek Anglin was one of our D. Like we were deep. We were a deep club, right? And so Jacob Klepis, Thomas Fleischman, like that was the AHL team back then, right? So it was good, right? We won so many games. Maybe we got two we were getting too long of breaks in between series. Like we were going like 4-0, 4-1, 4-1, right? Like it was, and then other teams were playing, and we were flat against Hamilton. I think we lost 4-1, right? But and then I think I played one more year in Hershey, and then I believe over to Europe there maybe the next year. But yeah.
You're name dropping like crazy here, Scott. Like holy moly.
Yeah.
There's some
names good players,
there.
Right?
Yeah.
Or I guess they played with me, maybe. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That's what they all say now.
No,
right?
No.
Yeah, they're doing interviews like, yeah, we had Scott Barney on this team.
Yeah. No, there was some good players. Anyways, but you know what though? They've taught me a lot. You know what? Just far as even what I do with coaching now, right? Just the things that I can teach my players and how to act as a pro, and especially the spotlight now, especially on Humboldt, right? Like you do something that's not good. You know what? Social media will get you, right? And just you know what? Our followers, we have more than probably 90% of major junior teams. So any little thing, it's out there, right? And it's not all about hockey. It's about, you know what? You want to go to university, you want a job, and these are things you got to learn starting, you know what, right in junior. And you know, I said we had that young team 2 years ago. Like mostly guys were at a midget, and you know what? I said, guys, like first time away from home, but hey, like it's not time to run around. You got to start now, right? So no, it's taught me a lot, just all those different experiences. So,
and going to Germany, a year with Augsburger Panther in the Dell, which just how cool is it in Germany? What's the hockey like in Germany at that level?
Yeah, you know what? Like I was always against. I said I don't want to go to Europe, right? And you know what? After I went, I was like, I wish I would have went over earlier, right? Just the experience over there and the culture, and if you kind of the culture there, if you're trying to try a few words over there, they'd love to help you out, right? But Augsburg was pretty unique situation there. It's a pretty big city, 300,000 people probably, but our rink, 3 sides were open. So it was like almost outdoors. So the roof and the one side. So like we could only play our games at night. We practiced in the morning, but you couldn't play like an afternoon game because the sun would be shining in, right, on one of the goalies. So our games were at night, right? And you get December, January, and the snow's coming in. It's like, this is awesome. Like, this is like, I remember my wife said, this is like the great atmosphere, right? But people are smoking in the stands, right? Because they can go out the sides of the rink, right? But now they have a rink that's kind of closed in. It's a beautiful facility there. But, you know, it was an awesome experience and great to get your feet wet over in Europe. And the great thing about Europe, you get like these week-long breaks, right? It's like they have like national team breaks. So like in the AHL, you get 2 days off at Christmas and 2 days off at the All-Star break, and that's it. Like, and you're playing 80 games. Over there, you get like a week off, so you can get in the train and go to Italy for a couple of days or go wherever you wanted. So it was great as far as that and seeing the world.
So playing in Germany like a little over a decade ago, was there anything you noticed about like the game itself on the ice that was different? Any areas where they were kind of ahead of the curve or behind the curve from a style basis?
Not really. I think back then the younger kids weren't as much involved as they are now. They've really like you see the league. Back then I think they have 12 imports. Now I think they made down even 10 or 8 imports, right? And the German players, you see it now. Look at Draisaitl, the guy in Ottawa there. Like they have some high end talent. They look at them at the World Juniors this year. They were competing even in the Olympics, the last Olympics. They were right up there, right? Like Marco Sturm has done it, right? But I think just how big the country is would blow your mind when you're driving through it. But like every piece of property though in Germany is used for something. It's almost like in Saskatchewan how the farmers have that every piece is for a certain grain or crop or everything's used, right? Like they're so smart. Like they're smart. So they sunk some money into the hockey side of it, but they have so many good athletes, so right. So I think when they transferred from the soccer there, right, and into the hockey a bit, like we couldn't play on like Saturdays because there's no chance because it's soccer. Soccer's number 1 in Germany, right? So, but now it's getting big, right? So you see a lot of the players, and like I don't know how many million people live in Germany, but it's huge over there.
And after your 1 year in Germany there, you decide Finland is kind of the next step. You started in Germany for a little bit, but then Finland for, you know, kind of partially a few seasons there. What was the transition to go to Finland now instead?
Yeah, Finland was known back then as a little higher league, right? Like the Finns, though, like it's a more of a hybrid rink, kind of like a North American, between a North American and Olympic size. And which one I wouldn't be surprised NHL goes to maybe, but obviously they don't want to take seats out of the rink. But it's you know what, the Finns, probably the hardest working players I've ever played with. Doesn't matter if it's off the ice, practice, morning skate, like they're in your face, they're working hard, compete hard. Great teammates, like just they always want the team together. They don't care if they're playing on a fourth line, extra forward, or first line, right? And you see it now in the NHL. Like those Finns can play so many different roles up and down your lineup, right? And it's like I still keep in touch with a lot of guys. I've had some Finns visit me in North America when I've been back home. The hockey, very fast hockey, which wasn't my game. But I had a player, Shane Toporowski, when I first went over there, and Topper was like, Barnes, don't try to keep up with them because you won't play your game, right? So just do your game, be strong on the puck. And that was probably the best advice I ever got there, right? And just met some great people. I said, like, really, really high level hockey. In Finland, an interesting one is most of their English is really, really, really good, the Scandinavian countries. And the big reason is you go to Europe, I mean, in Eastern Europe, like Germany, you're watching a show, say Seinfeld. Well, the voices are all dubbed, right? Well, we're in Finland, the show is Seinfeld's in English with the Finnish subtitles. So the Finns said they watch TV and movies and they've really learned the words that way. But most of them are really shy. They have one or two beers and then they won't shut up, kind of. But they're great people, would do anything for you. I said, like, great teammates, and it was a great experience for me and my family. And it was a long trip over there some years in August for training camp. But you know what? Just I'll never forget my experience over there.
And you managed to kind of sandwich your time in Finland with a little bit of time in the Czech Republic. How did you manage to do that and kind of go back and forth? Was there kind of like a trade, or how did that work?
Well, no, back then you can kind of get not like a release, or maybe things kind of like teams can kind of release you kind of thing, and back and forth. So got the Czech for a quick, then back to Finland. And then I think I ended up going to Salzburg and winning a European trophy there in Salzburg. I got loaned out there for Salzburg for, like, I think it was a few weeks, and won I think it was called the European trophy back then, and with Red Bull, and Pierre Page was coach there in Red Bull. And then I believe I went back, then I got into Austria and Italy after that. But it was great. I won a championship there in Austria. Obviously another great place. Where I lived there in Lustenau was literally right in the border of Switzerland, right? So we could walk our dogs and our baby at the time, and we could be at the park and we were in Switzerland, 5-minute walk, or we could drive our car 20 minutes the other way and we were in Germany. So it was pretty good part of the world, and just good people. Like I said, we were there for 2 years, had an unreal spot, and the guy's house, who it was the president's brother. We're still really good friends, talk almost every day. It's just a great part of the world. And we went back and visited them, me and my wife, there for our first kind of getaway in years there, about, probably 3 years ago there. So it was awesome.
And the one thing that kind of stood out to me when someone looks at your elite prospects might be the Asia League. You played in South Korea to start there in 12-13. I honestly did not know that they had a pro league out there. Tell us about it.
It's like, it was the one that I think a lot of people didn't really know about. So it was a buddy of mine went over there playing. Brian Young played some games with the Oilers, and he ended up getting a Korean passport. So they had the Olympics there. The last Olympics were in South Korea. Was it the last one or one before that? No, last one.
2018.
Last one. Yeah, last one. And that was the year I played my second time in South Korea. But the team I played on, that Anyang Halla, we ended up winning the championship. But 16 out of the 23 guys were on that team that were on that Olympic team. But they had, like, Matt Dalton, who is a Canadian, Brian Young, he's a Canadian, Mike Swift, who was Canadian, Alex Plant, and Eric Regan. They all got them passports because they've been playing there for 4 or 5 years, and got them in there. They actually showed well at the tournament, but I ended up getting up to a game, so it was pretty great experience to see them play, see the Olympics. You know what? The Asia League, you're going to watch it practice, you're like, oh my God, they're great, right? And the Koreans are pretty high skill, like that one team, but you can get in a couple teams where it's a little bit down. But you know what? It's fast hockey. So there's great players everywhere in the world, though, right now. So that's like the great part about it. And obviously the first year I had a big year there. You know what? My wife came over with me. We had our 2 dogs over there. We brought our 2 dogs over there. So it was it's a different culture shock, right, as far as food and how you live day to day. But you know what? It was a great experience. I said there's a lot of North Americans over there who are teaching, kind of, trying to get teaching jobs over here. They go over there for a year or two. Some of them end up staying there. I said, again, met a lot of good friends. I won a championship my last year. In between there, played in China for a season. Actually, my wife didn't come with me there to China. She was pregnant with my second kid, and it just made no sense. We were staying in hotels the whole time. We were moving around. So we started in Chichihar it's about 10 hours from Beijing north. So like we're far north, right? So that was our hub city. And we'd play three home games there. And then we'd play, you'd always play a 3-game set. So you go to Japan and play 2 different teams, play 6 games, fly back to China. So then we might play a Shanghai for 6, Beverly Hills kind of thing, like LA. And then we did a stint in Beijing for 6 games. So we kind of were playing this 3-game home set, and my son was going to be born. And my wife's mom was going to be there, and the doctor was going to bring me in via baby being born on the FaceTime. But credit to my wife, for being the strong woman she is. And we had a daughter at the time, and I got home literally about a month later because we had Chinese New Year. So it was got home for a month and back to China for a month, and then that was the season there. But you know what? It's great experiences. You see different culture, right? And meet different people. And for me, it's how you treat them. And that's why I tell our guys here too. It's how you treat people and how you come off, how you can, have relationships for the rest of your life or job opportunities. And it really, going through those injuries taught me to maybe be that way, and it's changed the way I kind of act with people and basically how it goes.
Was there one thing being in Korea or even China that stood out to you as like a culture shock?
Culture shock would be, I don't know, maybe like obviously you're eating with the chopsticks, but you get used to that, right? Like I can still use them now. Like, good people, like I said, like there was teams in Japan, teams in China, teams in South Korea, and one team in Russia in that league, right? So you got to experience a lot of different things. Always flew on the airplane, great hotels. The Asians are all about the respect, though. It's a big thing. In Korea, it was all about all the players have to practice bow to the coach, no matter if they believe what the coach said or not. Like they're kind of thanking him, like that was part of the culture, right? Like even if they thought in their head, you know what, that coach, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Every player, because he's older, they all bowed to him. They all bowed to him. It's just part of the culture, right? That's just how it is. And it's all about hierarchy. Like an older guy could say, "Go get my bag." The young guy, doesn't matter what he's doing, he's going to get it for the old guy. You're not saying no. That's just a big part of the culture over there. Yeah, big part of it. But, yeah.
That's really neat.
One tidbit. Because I was like, "What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing here?" Like, right? Like,
wow.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask here, we asked it in another interview we did with a Canadian who's now a head coach over in Austria and has a couple young kids. Is there going to be anything about like your children's citizenship or their passport or what they consider their nationality with being born overseas to, Canadian parents?
Yeah.
How are they?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, mine both were born in Canada, but I was over in China at the time for the one. My first daughter was conceived in Italy, but born in Canada. We had a really tough time getting pregnant, and we lost like 6 or 7 kids kind of in a long period of time. Didn't know if we we're gonna be able to have kids, and had the one, and then have the second, right? So it was great. And my son's is just going to be turning 4, and then my daughter will be turning 7 here in July. So they keep us busy here, but it's great. You wouldn't change anything for it. And we love it here in Humboldt. The family really enjoys it, and it's a great community.
And so you kind of leave after your first year in Korea, you went to Italy, which let's get real here. Italy is freaking amazing. Yeah. I've never been, but I want to go. What's the hockey like in Italy?
So usually they only play with 4 or 5 imports, and that year they played with 10. So we had like a lot of North Americans. So it was kind of good. Like guys would hang out and do different things together. And some of our Italians had they had a job, so we practice at night. A lot of times we practice at night, which is kind of frustrating a bit, but that is part of it, right? There were some good players there for us, and Italy, we got traveled to Florence, Rome, like different spots like that. We lived closer to Torino, so every trip for us was minimum 3-hour trip. Minimum 3 hours in the bus. Usually that was to Milan, right? And most trips were like 5-6 hours winding through the mountain cities, right? So, and they always played the 8 p.m. game. So Saturday, so play the game. It's not like let's get in the bus. You eat at the rink. So then there's no rush. And I'm going like, so we're getting out of the rink like sometimes 11 or midnight. You're not getting back to like 6 or 7 in the morning, right? And your day off's the next day. And it's just like, you're on a sleeping bus. And I could never sleep on the bus. I still can't, right? But it's just, so I guess here in Humboldt, we don't have too many bad trips. So it's the odd one to Flin Flon or Estevan up there and that, right? But it's no, it was a great experience. And like I say, you get to see the world different times. And said, I wouldn't trade anything for it. And it's actually that just helped me a lot on the coaching side, dealing with the different nationalities and having different coaches and how to handle players differently. And that, so it's worked well.
And you go to Austria after that. How did you manage to find some time in Austria? How did you kind of get to that point? And you spend 2 seasons there. So obviously things went well there. Yeah,
I really enjoyed it in Lustenau. And, I said like had a great, they gave us a nice house with our family, like a pool in the backyard, which is in Europe, usually you get a pretty smaller spot to live. And I said, we loved it there. We won a championship for my first year. And then the second year we lost in the finals. So had 2 good years there. I think even the second year, I think it was the year, I think I had a point every single game, but maybe 1 game in the playoffs. So it was a pretty interesting year for myself, right? And just something that doesn't usually happen. I remember a couple nights it was into overtime and got it, right? And it was we had a good team though, right? Had good line mates and we had fun together, right? And that's an important thing to go there. You play with some good line mates, right? And get together and become friends for life. And especially when you win, you're always, you know how it is, right? You're friends together forever. And like I said, we've already been back there once since, and hopefully plan to get back there again. Maybe if COVID opens up and get some time away from hockey here.
How is the hockey in Austria? Because they're kind of right on that fringe of like the top level of international hockey. They've got like a Marco Rossi that's on his way up, right? So
yeah, no, Austria is good hockey, right? That top league, you got Klagenfurt, and we got some good Austrian players, right? I played in the second league right then, and like literally, I was 5-minute drive from where the top league team was in Dornbirn, and so it was hockey. Hockey is big there, obviously. They still have their skiing and soccer and all that. So is a different level, right? But it's come a long way. Like I said, they just hear that the World Juniors, right, again, and I think they're at the World Championships this past year as well. So they're always kind of that up and down team in one of the groups there, right? Depending on the older guys or younger guys, but I think there's some good Austrian hockey players like that. Rossi played in Ottawa for a while, did well. Yeah. Obviously, he'll have a good NHL career here, right? So I think it's on its way up, I believe, but it's hard to tell, right? You get those age groups where you get that 4 or 5 years, and they could be great, and then they have that small window, right? Where other countries like Canada and the U.S. just keep them coming and coming and coming.
Well, we've seen Switzerland and Germany both have those at times. When Germany had Draisaitl for a little while there, and Switzerland had, I think, was Hischier, and they had one other.
Yeah,
Jake, you should know this.
Yeah, Swiss is pretty highly rated too. Like Swiss, They all can skate well. They all are great skaters, great in their edges. They're used to playing on Olympic ice, right? Coming back behind the puck. It's a different game, right? Different game, more control of the puck. Where like in North America, they like to dump and chase it, right? I hate it and don't believe in it at all. But
so after Austria, you go back to the Asia League for a while, China for a bit, and then back to South Korea. So like, was it just a matter of you enjoyed it there and you wanted to go back? The opportunity was there to go back, and it was just kind of some place that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I think it was a teammate that wanted me to come back there. I went to China for a year, a Japanese teammate that I played with. So we played in the same line all year. So it was kind of that one, come there for the year, enjoy it. You know what? He said it was good the year before. So it was good, right? It was only 6 months, right? So it was great. You're in and out. You get this other kind of getting the end of the career. And no, it was more like that, right? Like even the year I went to Korea, my last year, they hosted the Olympics. I think we played 25 regular season games. It was just great. Like, right? Like you got like 6 weeks off during the Olympics, and then we played the playoffs and we won a championship. So it was good. Easy in the body. Like I felt like I could play another couple years, right? But I was kind of like, I told my wife that year, I was like, you know what, I'm done with the hockey. I want to move on with that. I actually want to get just away from hockey totally, right? But now here I am here now.
And you mentioned the Olympics, and you got to see a few of those games. Just how cool was the Olympic experience, just being around all of that?
Yeah, it was good, right? Especially seeing like I had the two guys were like basically friends I know, and right, and great to see them be successful there and see the Olympic athletes just how hard they've worked to get there, right? Obviously, in person is a little different than watching it on TV, and you know what? Just the Koreans were filling the stadiums, right? And basically, the venue is about 3 hours from Seoul, so they basically just built it up for the Olympics, and then they kind of take her down, right? That seems like the new thing, but maybe not in North America, that wouldn't happen, but over in Asia, they basically build cities and create cities. That's what they'll probably do in Japan, I think, too, for like the Olympics. I would guess, but.
How like was the atmosphere just if you went to a restaurant, like it must have just been packed, like just was everybody getting excited and the I don't want to say the parties, but just like the coolness of it all, right?
Yeah, so it was 3 hours from Seoul. So Seoul's like the Mecca, right?
Right.
So it was outside. So people even rented spots. Like we went before, our head coach in the Korean team was Czech, and he got us into the Czech pavilion kind of thing. So we sat there and they had like Czech food, Czech beers, whatever, spirits kind of thing. So we went there beforehand and then kind of went into the game. So it was pretty cool atmosphere that way.
And after that, you kind of talked your career, you decided it was done. At what point did you kind of think about coaching? Because you mentioned you took just a step away from the game for a while. At what point did you think coaching was going to be a thing?
Well, like my last 4 or 5 years, everybody kept saying, Barnes, you'd be a great coach. And I was like, I'm fine. Like, no, right? And I'd always kind of, maybe the last couple years, kind of like a player assistant, even though I didn't have the title, helping guys out, helping the coaches out, different situations, or ask my opinion. What do you think? Let's try this out. Let's try that out. Maybe on the special teams or some, 5-on-5. And I was like to my wife, you know what? That's good. The kids settle down here. And she was always supportive. You want to play again another year? She was always great with that. And then I see an opportunity with the Broncos. Like, I got to put my name in here for this and see what happens. And obviously got the assistant coaching job. And I came away by myself my first year. And then the second year and third year here, my family's been with me. And so they just love it here. And you know what? I'm one of those guys, once I have my mind at something, I'll put 24/7 into it, maybe sometimes too much, but I think that's the only way getting better. I think I learned that through my back injury, right? Like just missing that much time away, how much time I had to put into it and how much I got out of it. And you know what, the same in coaching, it's what you put into it, you'll get out of it. And I think that's a big part of our success here that we've brought here in Humboldt.
And outside of being a coach, you've won an OHL championship, a European trophy, one championship in Austria, and an Asia League championship. So we always ask this to all of our guests. Do you have any really good trophy stories? Because we've heard the WHL championship trophy floats. One of the coaches that we talked to has the little hockey stick of the player at home now, and so on and so forth.
Any good ones?
With the trophies. Because we know those trophies are something.
Yeah, the trophy stories. I got to try to think here now. In Austria, I know like those guys, man, they wanted to go for 10 days straight though, right? And like I was at the end of my career, I said, I can't do this anymore, right? Like I remember the day after we won, right? And the night, like we got home late and I'm in bed and my wife's goes, I gotta leave him in bed here for a few extra hours. And all of a sudden 2 of the guys showed up with the trophy laying beside me. They're like, yeah, let's go. I'm going, oh, come on, not yet, right? Like this is like just the night after, right? And so we end up staying at my house, and then in Europe, a lot of the beer companies sponsor the teams, right? So like the company dropped off like 10 or 15 cases of beer, and then we kind of we had the pool in the backyard, and all of a sudden the rest of the team was there, and it was a good experience. And we had like a bus around town, kind of 2 days later with all the players and visiting different shops, and a big kind of team event after. And you know what, those Austrians, they can suck the beers back. That's all I know. But it's almost like they don't get the hangover, right? But
is winning the championships in Europe like it is when we see it in soccer? Because you see those soccer fans and they are absolutely rabid. Like, is it the same for hockey?
Well, like in Europe, they basically, the fans, like the home fans will sit in the one section and they're cheering the whole game, right? Like they're going, like you have the derbies against the closest team. It's the same. They have that soccer mentality, same for the hockey, right? And like when we won, like it was at home, like the fans are all on the ice, like the the beers flying everywhere. Like in the dressing room, I think the whole ceiling was just full of Jägermeister. I think like the next day, 2 days later, I came in there, the whole ceiling was just covered in like black Jägermeister. Like I was like going, wow, like right, like but like they go like next level, right? So it's no, it's good to see, right? You win a championship, and like you see like Tom Brady this year, right, enjoying himself. For a guy that's he's pretty much 11 and a half months of the year, he's pretty like into it, right? Like far as training and stuff like that. But it's who was the guy for the Raptors? Was he chugging like the wine on the stage? I think.
Gasol.
Yeah. So, like, it's good to see guys' personalities come out, right? Sometimes too, as well, right? So everybody's human and everybody knows it. It's just tough nowadays with the the social media backlash, and you got to watch your P's and Q's, and it's understandable, right, with the way society is right now. So.
The one that always comes to mind with me when I'm thinking of like post-championship celebrations is like the one the Washington Capitals were going on, and just seems like wherever they were, like Ovechkin with the cup just off his ass out to lunch drunk, sitting in a fountain.
Yeah. You know what? They had fun. Obviously didn't get in too much trouble. So I think I seen was it Tampa this year was going around the boats, and I think same with the Bucks there. They threw the trophy over to Gronk, right? You swear it was going to go right in the water, right? But they end up getting it. But yeah, good to see guys' personalities come out, right? As long as it's taken into the right context, I think that's the big part of it.
Yeah. We asked this to all of our guests as well. Do you have any just cool, interesting, funny, weird, out there, whatever stories that you want to tell us that might just be, out there, weird, whatever?
I probably already told a bunch of the weird stories.
Yeah, you have told a few of them. Yeah.
Weird ones like. I think I told this one before to another podcast. Maybe like in South Korea, they have like these. They call jinja bombs, and it's like a men's like sauna. It's like the men's sauna house, right? So you go to the sauna house, you pay like $7. You get in there, you have your own locker, put your clothes in there. You get like a robe, and it's just basically Korean guys walking around the heated flooring. But you go out into the one area, it's like there's like 4 or 5 different hot tubs of different temperatures, different colors. They'll have like 3 saunas at different temperatures, cold tub, you name it, right? But like the Koreans are like when they're brushing their teeth, right? You swear the toothbrush, he's trying to ram it, like knock his whole teeth out, right? And then like they just like the biggest spits you've ever heard in your life, right? You're just going, it's just part of the culture though, right? Like it's just the way it is, and it's just like hilarious, right? They all have the dark hair, so like they have like the barber there, and he puts like the special grease in their hair, so they're sitting in the sauna, and you see like you go there at the same time, like on a Sunday or like whatever, you'll see the same characters in there, and you start like just giving the wave, right? Like there's like one white guy kind of walking around, right? And they get to know you, maybe you see him around the area, and it's just kind of the way it goes, right? So that's kind of my weird one for now, but it was a great culture things. You know what? I used to go like once or twice a week because it was like almost like a regeneration, like hot tub, cold tub, sauna. Because I had always the saunas in Finland, right? So it was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's great. Woodsy, any other questions for Scott?
One other thing we like to ask a lot of our guests is if you've picked up any weird or unusual superstitions, rituals that you did as a player, and maybe if any of those have changed in your coaching days.
I'm pretty ritual. If you ask my assistant coach, Kurt Tonoff, like I'm a ritual guy day to day, right? I'm at the rink like probably 7 a.m. every day. I have to work out right away, and then to the office work, and then kind of blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of the same as a player. You know what? Put this on at this time, did this time stretched, this time was that, always put like flex all in the legs since like junior, always like didn't matter, right? Like flex all in the legs and the groins, like for my whole career, right? Like either that or like some hot rub, right? Sometimes you get in the wrong area, it wouldn't feel the greatest, but that's just kind of the way it worked. But that's, yeah, I'm pretty ritual with everything I do. You could ask my wife; she'd say it's way too much. But I think athletes, hockey players, especially, they're kind of doesn't matter if you see it in junior A, like you see it here with our guys. Like between periods, the same guys are doing certain things. Like we had a goalie, he puts the earphones in when he needs to get in the zone. Right when he starts doing that, don't even come in the meetings. It's fine. Like just stop the puck. I don't care, right? Like just like he was getting the point where he was wearing them sometimes during the game here. Like it was like whatever's working. So
what?
Yeah. He put the earphones on sometimes during the game. I was like, whatever. Like he didn't care. Like yeah.
He would like have his earbuds in
net.
Earbuds in the net.
What?
Is that even allowed?
Yeah, I don't even think. Is that even, like?
You're not going to see it in the goalie's ears.
I guess.
Wow. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, earbuds. Yeah.
Talk about blocking out.
I can't say who, but he played. He played in the league anyway. So the last 3 years. So.
I wouldn't have ever thought of that. I've called.
That's when he was right in the zone, though. He's right in the zone. He had the earbuds in. So.
Holy.
Yeah.
Do you have any weird like of guys you played with, like especially like some of those NHLers we know that are like this is their regiment, like pregame they've got to do this, or just weird rituals? Were there any of those that stood out to you back in those days?
Not a lot, but like you get some guys who are there 3.5 hours before the game, right? Like it's but that's just the way they do it. They're keeping busy doing their thing, right? And like there's stories like maybe like Chelios and those guys that they had certain things in their stall when they came in from the trainer. Like certain guys still have their things, right? I remember like Derek Patter. Patter said like he just lived for warm-ups. That was his thing. Patter, like he was,
oh yeah,
he just loved warm-ups. He was like, this is like the best part of the game. Like he just lived for it, right? And such a good character kid, and just said just loves. This is like he gets up for the warm-ups. That was his big thing, which helped him for the games because he had played with passion, right? And just some guys just. Have their different things they do, and so hockey players are big on these like I said, these superstitions.
He was always the last one off the ice, was he not?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he played paper rock scissors with the other guys. Oh yeah, right. And I think all the guys respect him too, right? Like they have a little fun with it, right? And he's a great character, and he'd be a guy to be a great coach too. We always said that to him. Be a good guy to kind of get behind the bench there one day. I think he's taking a schooling right now, and maybe one day he gets into that. We'll see.
Maybe we'll see him on the bench with you at some point.
Yeah, maybe. I told him, hey, let me know when you're done. You never know here, right? So
awesome. Scott, I mean, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate you taking some time to hang out with us and chat and tell us about your career. Our first ever NHL guest on Cold Hard Sports Talk. I hope you take pride in that, because that's pretty freaking awesome for us.
First NHL player. Don't disrespect Cam Moon.
Right, first NHL player. So thank you for this.
No, hey guys, anytime, right? And glad I can give back, and that's what it's all about. And I wish you guys all the best. And anytime you need anything, just let me know.
I will say I've interviewed Scott a number of times, and I don't think any of them were as entertaining as this. So, so there. That's what we can end this on.
Yeah. Well, that's good, guys. Well, nice being on here. And like I said, anytime you have anything, just reach out.
Thanks, Scott.